All right, guys, we are on to 4.1D. This lesson is called Solving any Linear Equation, and it's building off what we've been working on all throughout Learning Goal 4.1, which, we're trying to solve these linear equations. We're going to go back to basics a little bit, so take a step back on this first activity and go through some rather simple equations, at least compared to what we've been working on in class the past couple of days. Okay, so this first equation, I want you to write down these equations here. I've got 5, would help if I'm not on the eraser. 5 minus x equals 8. Okay, that's our first equation. Our second one is negative 1 equals x minus 2. For our next one, it is negative 3x equals 9. And for our last one, it is negative 10 equals negative 5x. All right, so when I look at these equations here, what I want you to consider is what strategies would you use? We've been talking about strategies all week to get x by itself, to figure out how to solve these equations, right? What strategies would you use for all of these four? For these four. So pause the video right now. Think for a minute, how would I solve these? And then solve them. When you're finished, go ahead and hit play. All right. So I see for number 1, 5 minus x equals 8. Now, some of you are able to figure this out in your head like that. 5 minus something equals 8. And the fact that you're subtracting x, but the answer is actually bigger than the number you're subtracting from, some of you were able to figure out right away that x equals negative 3 just by using logic. Okay. Same thing for numbers 2, 3, and 4. I mean, you could have used logic for all of these. Okay, that is a good strategy. All right. But there are times, as you guys have seen the past few days, that logic alone isn't going to be able to solve these equations for you. You need to rely on those tactics that will get x by itself. Okay. One of the things that we've talked about is to get rid of the numbers that are not x's, right? So I have 5 minus x on the left side of this equation. Get rid of that 5. It's a positive 5, and we know to get rid of things, we subtract. Now, earlier this week, we also learned if you're not taking away the same amount from both sides of the equation, it's not balanced anymore. So to keep our equation balanced, I write it on both sides that I'm subtracting 5, and those go away. And that's just minus x now, or negative x. On the other side, 8 minus 5 is negative 3. I'm sorry, 8 minus 5 is 3. Negative x equals 3. That's what this says right now, right? Well, remember, if there's no number written in front of a letter, there's really a 1 there. So this is really negative 1x. And my last step would just be to divide both sides by negative 1. Okay, that gets me x equals negative 3, because 3 divided by 1 is still 3, but since it's a negative 1, that's a negative 3. For number 2, again, I see the x, it has a number with it that's not an x, that minus 2. So do the opposite. Get rid of that minus 2 by adding 2 to both sides. Okay, I do it to both sides to keep the equation balanced. That minus 2 and that plus 2 go to 0, and it's just x on the right-hand side. But what about the left-hand side? I've got negative 1 plus 2. And if I do that, negative 1 plus 2, I get 1 for this one. Okay, so we're just going through our strategies of how we get x by itself. All right, for number 3, I've got negative 3x equals 9. This time x is being multiplied by a number, so to get rid of it, I divide by that same number. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. Okay, so I get that answer of x equals negative 3. And for the last one, same strategy. X is being multiplied by a number. That's what it means when it's written beside a letter like that. So I'm going to divide by negative 5. This time, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And I get that x equals 2. So hopefully you did okay with that. Some of the strategies, as you guys noticed with this, are to you can add or subtract to get rid of numbers that don't have an x. I'll put the x in quotation marks, right? So the numbers that don't have an x, I mean the ones that don't have an x attached to them. Another strategy we used for that was we divide when x is being multiplied by a number. Okay, so divide to get rid of the numbers in front of x. All right, that's just some of the strategies that we used. The third strategy for equations that are as simple as this is just use your logic, okay? Like for instance, number 3, negative 3 times what equals 9? Well, since 9 is positive, I have to do a negative times a negative. I know my answer is negative, and then what times 3 equals 9? It's 3, so it's negative 3 is my answer, right? All right. That was page 60. I don't know if I said that earlier. So let's turn to page 61 in your books. And they give us just 4 more equations. However, these look nothing like those other equations, right? These are on a whole nother level. These are a little more difficult. On lesson 4.1c, you guys were identifying different strategies to solve, the same equation. Like the one activity had you look at Claire and Lynn and Mai and Noah. They all solved that very same equation differently, right? And 2 of them did it wrong. But what we were looking at yesterday, or in 4.1c, was what are those strategies? What are they doing to both sides of the equation? Or are they just doing something to one side of the equation? And that's okay sometimes. Well, that's what we're working towards now. Okay, now it's your turn to do that. You're not looking at how someone else solved it. I want you to solve these. All right, so let's do A first. Go ahead and pause the video for a minute. That's all it should take you. Pause the video for 1 minute. Try to solve A, and then unpause it, and I'll go through it. All right. For A, I see my equation, I see my equal sign there. I see I have x's on both sides. And I told you yesterday, I like to get rid of the smaller x. We can't have x's on both sides. It's like when we were looking at the hanger diagrams. Can't have squares on both sides. They eventually cancel out because we can take away the same thing from both sides. I like to get rid of the smaller amount. So I've got a negative 6x on one side and a positive 4x on the other. The negative 6x is the smaller amount. I'm going to get rid of that. And to get rid of it, I do the opposite. It's a negative 6x. So I add 6x. Of course, to keep the equation balanced, I've got to do that to both sides. And there we go. Okay. Could you start by getting rid of the minus 7 first or getting rid of the minus 2 first? Yeah. And you could end up with the same answer as me, right? But I'm going to get rid of the smaller x first, and that's how I'm going to solve all of these, okay? When I add 6x, that gets rid of the minus 6x on this side. I'm left with a negative 7 is equal to 4x plus 6 more x's is 10x minus 2. Don't forget about that minus 2, okay? Now, since my x is on the right-hand side, I need to get rid of all the other numbers. Well, we just wrote down to get rid of numbers that don't have an x, you either add or subtract. In this case, it's a minus 2 already. I need to do the opposite. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. When I add 2 to both sides, I get negative 5 on the left is equal to 10x. Finally, our other strategy that we wrote down on the previous page was if there's a number in front of x, you divide to get rid of it. X is being multiplied by 10 here, so I'm going to divide by 10. When I divide by 10, x is by itself on the right-hand side. I just need to simplify the left-hand side. Negative 5 divided by 10 is negative 1/2. That simplifies to negative 1/2. Okay, if you type that into your calculator, it gives you negative 0.5. All right, let's try B now. Go ahead and pause the video. Work on equation B, and then unpause it once you're finished. Take about 1 minute. All right, let's see how you did. For this one, I'm actually going to show 2 ways to solve this equation. So I've got 1/2 7x minus 6 equals 6x minus 10. And then I'm going to use the magic of the iPad to just duplicate that and do it again over here. Okay. Let's move it over just a little bit more. All right. The first way, I'm going to show how to do this. You guys have seen this plenty of times now. This should not come as a surprise. If there is a number written in front of parentheses, you can distribute to get rid of the parentheses. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you can take that number in front of the parentheses and you can multiply it by both numbers inside the parentheses. The other way to do it would be to divide both sides by that number in front of parentheses. Because when a number is written by parentheses, it means multiply. So to get rid of it, we would do the opposite. I could divide both sides by 1/2. Okay? And that would get rid of the parentheses as well. I end up with a different looking equation, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and do it. 1/2 times 7x is 3.5x. 1/2 times negative 6 is negative 3. Now the right-hand side doesn't change at all. It's still 6x minus 10. Now I've got these x's on both sides again. Get rid of the smaller one. In that case, for this equation, it's the 3.5. It's a positive 3.5, so I subtract 3.5x. Subtract 3.5x. That gets those to cancel, and I'm left with just negative 3 on the left-hand side. 6 minus 3.5 is 2.5. And then don't forget about your minus 10. All right, from here, the x's are on the right-hand side. Got to get rid of those other numbers, and we do that by adding or subtracting. It's already a minus 10, so I add 10 to both sides. Okay, negative 3 plus 10 is 7. So now I have 7 equals 2.5x. And again, now I get rid of the 2.5 by dividing. When a number is written beside a letter, that means multiply. To get rid of it, you divide. When I divide both sides by 2.5, I got to type that one in. When I do 7 divided by 2.5, I actually get 2 4/5 equals x. Because on the right-hand side, the 2.5s cancel. Okay, 7 divided by 2.5 is 2.8, or 2 4/5. Do I get the same thing my other way, my other method? Now on the other side here, I went ahead and divided by the number in front of the parentheses first. So that leaves me with what's inside the parentheses, that 7x minus 6. But on the right-hand side now, that's going to change. 6 divided by 1/2 is 12. That's 12x. 10 divided by 1/2 is 20. Dividing by 1/2 is the same thing as multiplying by 2. Okay. So I've got this. I've got these variables on both sides again. The x's on both sides. Get rid of the smaller one. It's a positive 7x, so subtract 7x from both sides. That leaves me with negative 6 equals 12 minus 7. 12x minus 7x is 5x minus 20. And then go ahead and get rid of that minus 20. The x is on the right-hand side. I've got to get rid of all those numbers that aren't x away from it. So opposite of minus 20 is to add 20 to both sides. And that gives me 14 equals 5x. Now when I divide both sides by 5, I get 2 4/5 equals x, because these 5's cancel. I do get the same thing. I just wanted to go over that there are two ways to solve these ones with parentheses. Okay. For letter C, we have the equation 1/2 x plus 7 equals x plus 13. Pause the video. Solve it on your own. All right, let's see how you did. For this one, we have the smaller x on the left-hand side. I'm going to get rid of that first. Could you get rid of the plus 7 first? Yes. Could you get rid of the plus 13 first? Of course. Okay. Where you start can be different from where I start, and we could still end up with the same answer. All right. I just like to get it so that there's not x's on both sides at first. So I'm going to get rid of the smaller x. 1/2 x is smaller than 1x. So I'm going to subtract 1/2 x from both sides, since that's a positive 1/2 x. Those cancel. I'm left with just 7. But of course, whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other. So x minus 1/2 of an x leaves me with 1/2 of an x. And then I still have the plus 13. Now the x is on the right-hand side, so I need to get the other numbers away from it. That plus 13, I will do the opposite. I will subtract 13 from both sides. 7 minus 13 is negative 6 equals 1/2 x. Okay, those 13's canceled. And then x is being written beside 1/2. It doesn't matter what number x is written beside, you still divide to get rid of it. Okay, even though it's a fraction, we're still going to divide by 1/2. When I do that, these 1/2's cancel. I'm left with just x on the right-hand side. Negative 6 divided by 1/2, that's the same thing as multiplying by 2. I get negative 12. Okay, where you started could have been different. Like I said before, you could have started by subtracting 7 from both sides, or subtracting 13 from both sides. You could have started by subtracting x from both sides. But that's where I started. I subtracted 1/2 x from both sides, and this is what I got. You should have gotten the same thing no matter where you started. And then finally for letter D, I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to distribute. I see that both numbers on the other side of the equation are divisible by 2, so I'm going to divide by 2 to get rid of the number in front of the parentheses. Okay, when I do that, I'm left with just x plus 7. Now you could have distributed there. That's fine. And then I've got negative 4x divided by 2, which is negative 2x. And I have 14 divided by 2, which is 7. Okay. From here, again, I like to get rid of the smaller number for the x's. That's a negative 2x. That's smaller than 1x. So I'm going to do the opposite. When I add 2x to both sides, that gets rid of the minus 2x on the right. X, or 1x, plus 2x is 3x. I got 3x plus 7. And on the other side, I just have the 7. That's all that's left. Now the x is on the left. I need to get rid of the numbers on the left side of the equation by doing the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 7 first. That leaves me with 3x equals what just happened here. 7 minus 7, 0. I see x is being multiplied by 3. I do the opposite. I divide by 3. And it doesn't matter what you're dividing 0 by. It's still going to equal 0. 0 divided by 3 is 0. And that's it. Okay. What I would like to do is have you go ahead and work on practice problems 13 through 16 on our assignment for this week on Canvas. So at this time, you can go ahead, grab your Chromebooks, work on answering those 4 questions. Afterwards, we'll do the quick check quiz and see how you do.